Welcome to Lesson 5, which is about sentence construction. In this lesson, we will review what constitutes a complete sentence. We will be also reviewing what fragments, comma splices, and run-ons are, as well as ways to avoid the sentence construction errors. The last part of the lesson will be focused on the different types of connecting words. Now let us begin the review by answering this question. What makes a complete sentence? Basically, a complete sentence has three components, namely a subject, who is the actor in the sentence, a predicate that is marked by a verb, and it has a complete thought. It means that it can stand alone and by itself it makes sense. Another characteristic of a complete sentence is that it begins with a capital letter and ends with a sentence ending punctuation mark, such as a period and a question mark. Now let us take a look at these group of words. Are these complete sentences? Let us examine each. Number 1. They waited for the bus all morning in the rain last Tuesday. This is a fairly short group of words. Can you see or spot the actor in the sentence? And if there is an actor in the sentence, what is being acted? Or what is the action of the actor? That would be the predicate. Obviously, the actor in the sentence or the group of words is they, while the action is the word waited. So this group of words passes the first two requirements for a complete sentence. It has a subject as well as a predicate. Now, taken as a whole, does it make sense? Can it stand on its own? Let's read it again. They waited for the bus all morning in the rain last Tuesday. Does it make sense? It does make sense. So since it passes the three requirements, this one is a complete sentence. Moreover, we can see that it is also properly written because it begins with a capital letter T and ends with a period. What about group of words number 2? All morning in the rain last Tuesday. We can easily determine that this is taken from the first example. It is a cluster of words taken from example number 1. It does not contain a doer of the action nor an action. It doesn't have a subject nor a predicate. So the missing components are clues that this example here or this group of words here is not a complete sentence. What about group of words number 3? This one is longer, definitely longer than the first two examples. But does it mean that it's already a complete sentence? Let's see. Wishing for an umbrella and dreaming of a nice warm bed, determined to make it to class for the test. We are seeing verbs in this group of words. We have the words wishing and dreaming. We also have make. But is there a doer of these verbs? Do you spot the subject? The answer is no. Group of words number 3 does not have an actor, does not have a subject. So it means that it is not a complete sentence. So you see, even if a group of words is lengthy, even if it's very long, there is still a tendency that such group of words is not containing an important component for it to function well as a complete sentence, or for it to be considered a complete sentence. So we have to be very careful in constructing groups of words. We might not be able to review, or we might not be able to spot a missing component. So you should always proofread, you should always check your constructions. To reiterate what I have just mentioned in the previous slide, let me read this to you. As sentences become longer and complicated, it gets harder to focus on the basic elements such as the subject, the predicate, and the completeness of the thought. And because of that, these common construction errors happen. Now, in this lecture, or in this lesson, we will review what a fragment is, as well as a comma splice and a run-on. I will also be discussing ways to correct these in order to make sure that your construction is a complete sentence. Moving on, let's talk about the first construction error, fragment. A fragment is a word group or a group of words that lacks a subject or a verb, and or one that does not express a complete thought. There are different types of fragments, but the most common type or fragments usually happen when a dependent, or also known as a subordinate clause, is separated from its main clause. Do you still remember what a main clause or independent clause is versus a dependent or subordinate clause? Okay. If you still remember those, and however you have forgotten some details about them, you may review them, okay? However, this lecture may somehow remind you of the difference between the two. A subordinate clause is also known as a dependent clause, and it cannot stand on its own. It can only function well when it is attached with a main or an independent clause. A subordinate clause adds detail to the main or independent clause. In order to identify a subordinate clause, all you need to do is to look for subordinating conjunctions. Subordinating conjunctions, or a subordinating conjunction, always marks the beginning of a subordinate or dependent clause. Let's take a look at these examples. Sentence number 2 is a complete sentence because it is composed of an independent clause or a main clause plus a dependent or subordinate clause. The purpose of the subordinate clause is to add detail to the main clause. Adds detail. The dependent clause cannot stand or does not make sense on its own. It will make sense if it is attached to the main clause. This one is a subordinate clause. And because it doesn't make sense, it is considered a fragment. It doesn't make sense, it cannot stand on its own, it begins with a subordinating conjunction, it is a subordinating clause. It doesn't make sense unless it is attached to a main clause. So since it doesn't have a complete thought, it is considered a type of a fragment. I hope that you got that very simple explanation. Next set of example. He had finally picked up the socks. This one here is a complete sentence. It makes sense. It can stand on its own. However, the next group of words does not. That he had thrown on the floor days ago. The presence of that, which is a subordinating conjunction, okay, it is a subordinating conjunction. The presence of that, okay, which pertains to relation, makes this a subordinating clause, also known as a dependent clause. And since it cannot stand on its own, and yet it's separated from the main clause, that makes it a fragment. So how to correct it? Simply remove the period, turn the capital T into a small t, and then combine the two. Connect the dependent clause to the main clause in order for it to support it so that both would make sense, especially the dependent clause. Okay, so there you go. A subordinate clause, when separated from its main clause, is considered a fragment. And you will be able to identify subordinate clauses by means of looking for these words. Here is a visual representation on how to make a dependent clause a complete sentence. So, when you see a dependent or a subordinate clause in your, for example, paragraph, all you need to do is to either add or simply attach it to the main clause that would complete its thought. If there is no main clause to which you can attach it, then add details. After adding the details, you follow or observe this rule. You have to use a comma if a dependent word group or if a dependent clause comes at the beginning of a sentence, but not generally if it comes at the end of a sentence. Take a look at these two examples and see the difference to understand what this rule means. Can you spot in this example the subordinate conjunction or the subordinating conjunction? Okay, the subordinating conjunction in this sentence is the word after. According to the rule, if the dependent clause comes at the beginning of the sentence, okay, it comes before the main clause, then a comma should separate the dependent clause with the main clause. This is the dependent or the subordinate clause after I cashed my paycheck. And since it comes before the main clause, I treated myself to dinner, then a comma should be placed in between the two clauses. Okay, so that's the rule. If the dependent clause comes before the main clause, then you should place a comma to separate the two. But if it is the other way around, example, I won't leave the house until I hear from you. Where is the subordinating conjunction that marks the subordinate clause? We have here the word until. So this is the clue that begins the subordinating conjunction, the subordinating clause. This is your subordinating clause. Okay? And since the main verb comes first before the subordinate clause or the dependent clause, then there is no need for a comma. If you would change the positions of the two, you would first write, until I hear from you, I won't leave the house. Then there should be a comma in between. Until I hear from you, comma, I won't leave the house. Let us alter the position of the two clauses here and see how it would affect the presence of the comma. I treated myself to dinner after I cashed my paycheck. If that is the arrangement, then you won't need the comma. Next construction error is the comma splice. A comma splice refers to a comma incorrectly used to connect two complete thoughts. So instead of using a period or a question mark or perhaps a semicolon, if you would use a comma instead of those mentioned punctuation marks to separate two complete sentences, then you are committing this mistake, okay? A comma splice. For examples, okay, here is an example of a comma splice. I go to school is a complete sentence. My brother stays home is also a complete sentence. But instead of using a proper punctuation mark to separate the two, a comma is used. This is a mistake. It is a comma splice. To correct this error, you simply need to use the proper punctuation mark to separate the two sentences. In this case, a period is used. Next, many young adults today live at home with their parents. This part is already a complete sentence. This allows them to save money. This is the subject, allows is the verb. This allows them to save money is a complete thought. This is also a complete sentence. Now, the presence of the comma here is a signal that these two sentences are not properly separated. So this is a comma splice. How to correct this? Simply remove the comma and properly punctuate. Okay, so there you go. The third construction error is the run-on. Its plural form is run-ons. A run-on is composed of two complete sentences fused together, and there is no punctuation mark to properly break between the two thoughts. A run-on, for your information, is also called fused sentences. I have here two examples. We heard a noise in the garage. Okay, this part of the group of words is already a complete sentence. We heard a noise in the garage. It's already a complete sentence. Two birds had flown in through the open window. Okay, from the word to until the word window is another complete sentence. So you can see here two complete sentences which are fused, combined. So what we have here is an example of a run-on. Another example, the canoe touched the bottom. Dave pushed it toward deeper water. The canoe touched the bottom is already a complete sentence. Dave pushed it toward deeper water is also a complete sentence. Now, since there is no punctuation mark separating the two, this is also an example of a fused sentence or a run-on. Now, how do we correct run-ons? We have four ways. Method number one is by means of ending the first complete sentence with a period or a proper punctuation mark. And then you continue by following it with the next sentence but the next sentence should begin with a capital letter. The second method is by means of using a comma and a coordinating conjunction to connect the two complete thoughts. Third, you may use, instead of a period, a semicolon to separate the two closely related complete thoughts. The last method is by means of using also a semicolon and a transition word. I will be showing you examples to explain each method. First method in correcting a run-on, end the first complete sentence with a period. Example, Vicky has a unique style of dressing. Okay, this one is already a complete sentence. But instead of ending that sentence or this sentence with a period, it continues with the first word of the next complete sentence. She wore a man's tuxedo with a red bow tie to her cousin's wedding. So we have here a clear example of a run-on, and to correct this, we simply need to separate the two sentences by means of placing a period in between. Vicky has a unique style of dressing, period. She wore a man's tuxedo with a red bow tie to her cousin's wedding. Method number 2 is by means of using a comma and a coordinating conjunction to connect the two complete thoughts. Do you still remember what coordinating conjunctions are? How many coordinating conjunctions do we have in English? We have only 7. Do you still remember the fanboys? For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Those are the only coordinating conjunctions in the English language. We only have 7. Now, method number 2 tells us to use a comma, and then after the comma, use a coordinating conjunction to properly separate the two complete sentences. Examples. Teresa works full-time for an accounting firm. This one here is a complete sentence. She takes evening classes is also a complete sentence. Instead of using a period, you may use a comma and a coordinating conjunction. In sentence number 1, the coordinating conjunction used is the conjunction and, comma, and the coordinating conjunction and. Make sure though that your chosen coordinating conjunction would properly connect the two sentences, okay? And it won't change the thought. Sentence number 2. I turned to the want ads. This is a complete sentence. I knew my dream job wouldn't be listed. This one is also a sentence. But instead of using a period to separate the two sentences, you may use a comma and the proper coordinating conjunction. But is an example of a coordinating conjunction. Okay, so comma and coordinating conjunction, but. Next, lizards become sluggish at night. Sentence number 1. Sentence number 2. They need the sun's warmth to maintain an active body temperature. We have here two sentences, and to separate the two, we can simply use a comma followed by a proper coordinating conjunction. In this case, in sentence number 3, for may be used. Sentence number 4. The defenders of the tribe were vastly outnumbered. This is sentence number 1. They refused to surrender is also a complete sentence. Now, to separate the two, but instead of using a period, you may use a comma and a coordinating conjunction. Okay, so I hope to see in your sentences in the next period during the midterm this particular style of separating sentences. Sana makita ko siya sa inyong constructions. Instead of ending sentences with or separating sentences with punctuation marks, I hope to see coordinating conjunctions, okay, which is uh, just beside a comma. The third method suggests the use of a semicolon to separate the two closely related complete thoughts. Now, if the two sentences relate very much, they are closely related, you may use, instead of a period, a semicolon. Example sentences. We knew a power failure had occurred. Okay, semicolon. All the clocks were 47 minutes slow. Are these two closely related? Yes, causal. Because of the power failure, this happened. So it's a cause and effect relationship. Now, since they are closely related, you may use a semicolon instead of a period to separate the two sentences. But take note that when you use a semicolon, the next sentence should not begin with a capital letter. Always remember that. The letter that comes after a semicolon should be a small letter. Do not forget that. Sentence or example number 2. I got disconnected from the internet. I was not able to attend the class. These two sentences are closely related, and so, instead of a period, a semicolon may be used. Now, some of you might be wondering, I thought you said that the next letter after the semicolon should not be a capital letter. Then how come I is capital? This is an exemption, okay? Because I is supposed to be always a capital I. The pronoun I should always be in caps lock. Next, example number 3. He hurt his ankle. He couldn't walk. Closely related, so you may separate the two by means of using a semicolon instead of a period. Okay, he is not an exemption. It is not standard, unlike the use of the pronoun I. So we don't capitalize the H of he. So I also hope to see this style of writing when you write your sentences during the midterm period. I hope to see semicolons separating sentences in your essays. The last method in correcting run-ons tells us to use a semicolon to separate the two thoughts, and we may also use a transition word. We may also use a transition word. Example sentences, we knew a power failure had occurred. Okay, semicolon. As a result, okay, do you still remember this example sentence from the previous slide? They're just the same actually. Okay, these three sentences are the same as the three sentences in the previous slide. But the only difference is that I added transition words as a result, hence, and therefore. Okay? We knew a power failure had occurred. As a result, all the clocks were 47 minutes slow. I got disconnected from the internet, semicolon, hence, do not capitalize hence, the first letter. I wasn't able to attend the class. He hurt his ankle, therefore, he couldn't walk. Now, I want you to take a look at these words. I have a question. If we remove these words, okay, if we cross them out, would they affect the sentences? Would they make the sentences ungrammatical? The answer is no. Yan. Okay? Transition words are words that connect sentences. Okay? But when you remove them, they wouldn't at all affect the grammaticality of the sentences. So meaning to say, they are optional parts, but their use or their presence in sentences, in between sentences, may add to the meaning, okay, may add to the clarity of the relationship. They may add to the clarity of the relationship between the two sentences. Okay? They add explanation. Okay? They tell you more about the relationship between the two sentences. But if you remove them, they wouldn't really absolutely affect or change the meaning. Okay? They just add clarity. Okay, so that's one importance of transition words. Transition words can help us to be even more or to be clearer. Okay? It helps us to clearly explain, clearly show the relationship between sentences. Okay? That will be the next part of the lesson. There are three types of connecting words in English. Transition words, okay, the ones I included in the sentences in the previous slide, transition words, are just one type of connecting words. We also have coordinating conjunctions and subordinating conjunctions. Transition words are also known as conjunctive adverbs. Okay, so allow me to read you each type. Coordinating conjunctions, the 7 coordinating conjunctions, join similar parts of speech or groups of words of equal grammatical weight. I will show you examples later for you to better understand what this means, what equal grammatical weight means. On the other hand, subordinating conjunctions make or start dependent clauses. An example of a subordinating conjunction is however. While transition words or conjunctive adverbs provide a connection between ideas. However, unlike subordinating conjunctions, they do not make clauses dependent. That is why even though we remove them, okay, even though we remove them from the rest of the sentence, that rest of the sentence will still stand or will still make sense on its own. The first set of connecting words are the coordinating conjunctions. As mentioned a while ago in one of the slides, there are only 7 coordinating conjunctions in English. We have for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Coordinating conjunctions join similar parts of speech or groups of words of equal grammatical weight. Examples: nouns and pronouns are both parts of speech, and they are of equal grammatical weight. Leslie is a noun, I is a pronoun, and is an example of a family. Okay? And here is acting as a coordinating conjunction, and it is joining these two parts of speech which are of equal grammatical weight. Okay? Coordinating conjunctions can also join two verbs. Examples: our dog whined and scratched are two verbs. They are of equal grammatical weight, so we can use and to join the two. Coordinating conjunctions can also join adjectives. Tender, tasty, and cheap are adjectives, so yet may be used. Okay? The vegan burger was tender, tasty, yet surprisingly cheap. Adverbs. Coordinating conjunctions may also join adverbs. The man responded quickly is an adverb, but incorrectly. Incorrectly is also an adverb. Coordinating conjunctions can also join groups of words or phrases of similar grammatical weight, equal grammatical weight. So here, or is combining two prepositional phrases. And do you still remember this one? Coordinating conjunctions can also join two sentences. Two sentences are of equal grammatical weight. Sentence 1, sentence 2. So how do we combine two sentences using coordinating conjunctions? Do not forget that you have to use a comma, okay, before a coordinating conjunction. The second type of connecting words are the subordinating conjunctions. As mentioned in one of the previous slides, subordinating conjunctions, they mark the beginning of a dependent or subordinating clause or a subordinate clause. Okay? A subordinate clause or a dependent clause is dependent upon the main clause. Examples of subordinating conjunctions are so that, if, and when. A subordinate clause may either follow or precede the main clause. It provides informational support to the main event of the sentence. Okay? A subordinate clause provides support or additional information about the main clause. Okay? Let us look at the examples. These words in red are examples of subordinating conjunctions. Okay? And they mark the beginning of a subordinate clause or dependent clause. Although we all know smoking is bad for our health, this one is a dependent or a subordinate clause. And since it comes before the main clause, do you still remember the rule? If the subordinate clause comes before the main clause, then the two should be separated by a comma. But if not, if the main clause begins the sentence followed by a dependent clause, then a comma is not needed. Okay? They went for a walk, it's the main clause. It's followed by a dependent clause. So since this is the arrangement, you see here no comma. But this is not the case here. Okay? The subordinate or the dependent clause comes before the main clause. And since that is the arrangement, okay, a comma is needed. Okay, this one, okay, begins with the main clause. The students pass their exams. It's followed by a dependent clause. And because of the order or the arrangement, a comma is not needed. Okay, for the last example, because the students had studied hard, okay, we just changed the position of the two clauses from the second to the last example. Because of the difference, a comma is needed. Okay, so don't forget that rule, okay? Do not forget the importance of placing a comma between a dependent clause and a main clause based on their order. Here is a screenshot of a table of the different subordinating conjunctions used in English. For the complete table, you may visit this site, which is one of the references for this lecture. The last type of connecting words are the conjunctive adverbs, or also known as the transition words. Transition words provide a connection between ideas. But unlike subordinating conjunctions, transition words do not make clauses dependent. And so, even if you remove them from the rest of the sentence, it will not affect that sentence. It can stand on its own. Transition words appear before a comma in a sentence. I repeat, they appear before a comma in a sentence. Let's take a look at these examples. Susan told her boss she was pregnant, period. As a result, he dismissed her 2 weeks later. Okay? As a result is a transition phrase, Transition words may be phrases. They may also contain only a single word, okay? I repeat, a transitional device, okay? Sometimes they are called transitional devices. A transitional device may sometimes contain 2 or 3 words. Sometimes a transitional device can also be containing only 1 word. Okay, it may be a transitional phrase, it may be a transitional word. As a result, is a transitional phrase. Okay, so I mentioned a while ago that even though we remove transition devices in between sentences, they wouldn't affect the grammaticality of the two. Let's see if it's correct. Assuming that we would remove as a result. Susan told her boss she was pregnant. He dismissed her 2 weeks later. Does it change anything? Does it make the sentences ungrammatical? The answer is no. Okay, so that's how transition words or phrases work. Another clue is that they appear before a comma. This is a comma. Okay. Some more examples. The handsome millionaire Paul Ryder is looking for a new wife after his divorce. However, he is very unfriendly. Okay. If you remove however, it's not going to make these two sentences ungrammatical. Okay, this may be optional. Generally, politicians are honest. However, the job also attracts many dishonest people. It was snowing outside. Despite that, we decided to take the dog for a walk. So these are examples of transition words or transitional devices. Here is a screenshot of a table of transitional phrases and words that are usually used in English sentences. Do not forget that transitional words or phrases are separated from the sentence that it marks through a comma. Take note also that some connecting words look the same. Okay, but you would only be able to tell whether it's a conjunction or a transition depending on their position in the sentence or the sentences. For example, sentence number 1, it was snowing outside. Despite that, we decided to take the dog for a walk. Okay. In sentence number 2, despite the cold wind, they went out for a walk. Okay, let's take a look at the word despite. In sentence number 1, is it functioning as a transition word or a conjunction? What do you think? Okay, so in sentence number 1, the word despite is a transition word. Okay, so even if you remove despite that, from the sentence, it's not going to make the sentence ungrammatical. Okay. Despite in sentence number 2 is functioning as a subordinating conjunction. This is the end of the lesson. If you want to read more about conjunctions, about clauses, transition devices, you may visit the following websites. Thank you for your engagement in class and for your time. Keep safe always.